frequency splitting in Ableton. Most people do it in a technically incorrect way. Is that true? Yes. Let me explain. Most people, including me, recommend you do frequency splitting using a multi-band dynamics module, such as you see here. Simply load them into a rack and solo out the lows, mids, and the highs, allowing you to put things specifically on any of those bands of frequencies, such as say a delay just on the mid frequencies, as you see here. However, this doesn't quite work properly. Don't worry, I have a solution. But first of all, let me show you how it doesn't work properly. Take a look at this. You'd expect this to give the same output as the original sound, but it doesn't, which isn't necessarily a big problem, but it's not ideal. Basically, it's messing with the phase. I'm not a DSP expert, so I'm not sure exactly how it's all working. I mean, when you use a filter, it changes the phase, as you can see here in Serum. Just by clicking, you can see around the cutoff value, the phase is changing, where in the case of a single sound source, the phase is how the timing of one frequency changes relative to the timing of another frequency. I'll say it again, on a single sound source, phase is how the timing of one frequency changes relative to the timing of another frequency. In other words, when you split things, it's not splitting it in this perfectly mathematically pure way. It's not like you have Legos and you can just go blunk, do something, blunk it back together. Sound isn't Legos. Sound is mathematics and stuff. And so sometimes when you do things, you try to put them back together, it just doesn't quite work. It's like getting some toothpaste and squeezing it all out and you try to put it all back in. Maybe, probably not, but bad example. Legos is a better example. It's not Lego. Anyway, I have a solution, or I suppose I got emailed a solution by a guy called Phaser. You can see the email here. Anyway, I took a look at his racks and they make sense. They make sense conceptually and also in practice. I mean, before I even explain how they work, notice visually that they do work. The original sound, and then through one of his racks, one of his frequency splitting racks. But what exactly is going on? Think about the two-band case, the easiest case. So we have two layers, the low frequencies and the high frequencies. Quite naturally, the low frequencies are easy. You just grab a low pass filter and set it up how you like. For the high frequencies, we have two layers, the original and this inverted low frequency layer. I'll say it again, for the high frequencies, we have two layers, the original sound and then the low frequencies we just had inverted, literally the waveform flipped upside down, as you can see here in utility with these two buttons triggered. If you like, this is minusing the low frequencies. And so think about it, if this is minusing the low frequencies, think about what's happening. For the high frequencies, we have the original sound minus the low frequencies, giving the high frequencies. And so when you combine it, it sort of all works out. Cool. There's a fun bonus, something to get you thinking. You could actually have different EQs there. It doesn't have to be the Ableton EQ. It could be Pro Q2. In practice, does this matter? I mean, if you process bands differently, then the processing will mess about with the phase and stuff anyway. So it's almost like if you split something apart and then you mess about with it, then of course it's not going to fit back together perfectly. But it's something to think about. It's interesting and definitely something to think about. It's also, even if you don't think about it, just useful to know if maybe you're using the normal multiband route and things just aren't quite doing what you want. In fact, let me tell you another concept related to all of this. When does phase even matter? Two situations. One, extremely short sounds, and two, when you layer things. Remember what I said. Phase on a single sound source is when the timing of one frequency changes relative to the other frequencies. And so, as an extreme example, if you had a long stationary waveform like this, you could mess about with the phases, but it'll sound identical. You could say move one particular frequency a minuscule amount to the left or the right, and our ears will hear it as exactly the same, and so no difference. However, if you were to layer this, the phase difference becomes audible. And that's when things like minimum phase versus linear phase EQ matters. When you're layering things, you'll hear a change in phase when you layer it with the original sound. And that's when it matters. Or when the sound's extremely short. Sometimes anyway. I mean, think about a short kick or a snare or something with a perfectly sharp transient. If you then start moving frequencies backwards and forwards and messing about with the phase, it starts to get a bit more smushy and mushed and messed about with. So that's the other time, really short sounds. But anyway, that's a giant rabbit hole, which I've done courses on, for example. So to explore all of it takes a lot of time and some other concepts to explain, but there's knowledge in this video. Embrace the knowledge, and I will catch you guys on the flippity flip.